Putting rhythm to the beat, the words that I speak. I spit raw power every day of the week. While most y'all weak and need to get your soul back before what you seek goes right off track. I spit hard facts, was told I have a knack. Spiritual insight, it goes way back. It watches my back, governs how I act. If you don't know that, the illusion is a trap. Divine contact, the future is an axle. Sacred contract, the mystery unravels. Radical, tactical, my lyric is factual. Stepped is in a root, better take that sabbatical. Split your brain wave, back into a fractal, put you in the grave, man, your ego is fragile. I time travel while you all just babble. In the Garden of Eden, who created the apple?
This ain't the end of the world, but a new beginning. Stars keep spinning, and man keeps sinning. And those who repent are gonna keep on living, and those who don't are gonna keep on tripping. This ain't the end of the world, but a new beginning. Stars keep spinning, and man keeps sinning. And those who repent are gonna keep on living, and those who don't are gonna keep on tripping.
You wanna play with God, but you don't take it serious. Ignorant fraud, you ain't really that mysterious. Mystical fog got the human race delirious. The powers that be, they keep on fearing us, secretly cheering us, fighting one another. Traitors in the culture do the work of Big Brother. Unified is how you all wanna act, and then go around and stab your brother in the back. Your morality is whack. Police are selling crap, but you're too busy putting leadership on blast. You really just jealous? You really just stupid? I'm 44, man, I ain't a new kid. Devil's running wild on every city street. Children get defiled by the Hollywood elite. Political cheats are burning in the heat. When Armageddon comes, I'm chilling in the creek.
This ain't the end of the world, but a new beginning. Stars keep spinning, and man keeps sinning. And those who repent are gonna keep on living, and those who don't are gonna keep on tripping. This ain't the end of the world, but a new beginning. Stars keep spinning, and man keeps sinning. And those who repent are gonna keep on living, and those who don't are gonna keep on tripping.
Wanna know where you're going or watch the program? So many manipulated by the whole scam. The shit is pre-planned, you try to overstand. They wanna keep us out of the promised land. Do you believe in God or the television set? Do you believe in what you feel or what's on the internet? They put subcontext to cerebral cortex. Got most y'all vexed with your thoughts in check. Too afraid to speak or you might get rejected. The powers that be got the guilty infected because they neglect the soul of the sacred. Will I remain whole in the face of hatred? I am immortal, I live life with grace. I come from a place way beyond this space. I am not a race but a human being. Y'all can't fathom what I'm really seeing.
Peace and much love and welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am Minister Son One. I had two thoughts going in my head at one time. I am Minister Son One, and here's our teacher, KRS-ONE.
What's up, man?
Peace to the guy.
I'm looking at making. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what's the deal, man?
What's going on?
Yesterday.
Yes. Yesterday was great. Obviously, you tore it down, and the crowd felt it. There were still people coming out trying to catch you before you left.
I was in and out. I had moms with me.
Yeah.
He was trying to catch a dinner after the show.
No doubt.
And, out of all shows, and look at this. We had a time. We had 30 minutes, and I was getting off the stage at about 27 minutes.
Right.
We do the show flawlessly. We go through everything perfect. They say, yo, we need an encore.
Right.
Like this day, this is the day I'm trying to get out of this building. Any other day, I'd be lounging, trying to do long. This day, I'm trying to get out. Now they want an encore. We had to go back out and do 2 more songs.
Yes, indeed. And you're the only one.
Yeah, I'm the only one that did the encore.
All right.
They got
Well, I know they heard that still number one, and they was like, wait a minute, we're missing out on still number one? Like, what's going on? We need it.
Well, that was quite a night. And Tennessee, shout out to Tennessee.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Tennessee gave it up. Crazy.
Savage.
What a show that was. We got busy there as well. And big up the Prophet Jay and Mike, Mad Mike, and everybody that came through. And yo, you said Zinaru's birthday. We was just watching a Zinaru video. I didn't get the exact date on
the 27th.
Zinaru. What it do?
Yeah.
The 27th
Of July, 1973.
Wow. A month before hip hop was to actually come in.
That's right. That's right.
So, Minister Zinaru, we wish you a happy birthday. Absolutely. And you know, I there's so much to say, but you know, we matter of fact, I'll move your birthday into our reading today. Because before we actually start, you know, with the reading, obviously we're picking up from where we left off last week, and we're talking about the 9 elements this week. We're going to pick up from where we left off last week, 9 elements this week. Mm-hmm. And but before we get to that, I want to talk about birthright and heritage, because it goes into this particular passage we're actually going to read today. And it comes off actually of Minister Zinaru's birthday, because we are talking about birthrights, tradition, heritage, and even being born into hip hop, knowing that you are a hip hopper, feeling proud of that, knowing that you have mastered something, or you're fully aware and understand the tradition by which you come with or come to. These things are what forms peace. These are the things that give you contentment. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Matter of fact, you know, if you don't have any opening remarks, Minister Sun One, we'll just jump right into it.
Well, I would like to say, so I don't forget, that we're sending our prayers out to the family of Staten and Vicious One.
So word.
Their entire family, both of them and their 2 babies, contracted or got the COVID virus, and so we're our hearts are going out. It's nothing but love, healing, energy, and prayers of speedy recovery, which is good though. Ambitious was released from the hospital and is back at home, and so they're quarantining, I'm sure, and getting themselves back to where they need to be.
Word. And our visualization goes out to Ambitious, really to the whole family. What am I saying? That we see you all on your feet. We see you all on your feet already. This is a passing phase, and you get stronger from it. I'm glad to hear she's out of the hospital.
Yes,
because that's a step forward.
Yes.
And so take a moment on that one and put that visualization right there. I see it right now. Playing no game with that. So yeah.
Well, there it is. There it is for me.
Well, let's get started then. And again, happy birthday to Minister Zinaru. What it do? And off of that, we're talking about your birth into hip hop. And you got to realize this. I'm going to take a moment here and just help you to realize the importance of what it is I'm saying. Now, most people, I say this all the time, most people don't realize they're in history until it's too late. They don't realize the actual moments that they're in until the moment has passed by. And then it's, I shoulda, I coulda, what if I did or didn't, this kind of thing. To be awake and aware and conscious, you have to be awake, aware, and conscious. You have to know what's going on in your immediate time, in your immediate space. And this is also what raises your self-worth. And this is the first part of the lessons that we are studying at the top of the Gospel of Hip Hop, and also for scholars that are going to teach this or erect temples of their own in your neighborhoods. The point to the study is to raise your self-worth. It doesn't make sense to study something that you yourself are not getting any kind of value from. You just know it. Doesn't feed you, doesn't protect you, doesn't provide nothing. It's just something you know. That's not the type of knowledge that hip hop's knowledge is. Hip hop as a body of knowledge is all about your empowerment, your self-worth, what, raising the quality of your life and the quality of yourself. So here at the Temple of Hip Hop, we focus in on that. Let me give the preamble before we really begin. So for those that are just tuning in with us right now, the Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation ministry, archive, school, and society. And we began in 1996 when I realized that I am hip hop. I'm not just doing hip hop, but I am hip hop. That opened my mind to a whole bunch of realizations about hip hop being beyond the material world, beyond what you could get from it. That hip hop was actually our being. It was a lifestyle. It was actually culture. So this is what begins the Temple of Hip Hop. And for those that are just joining us, welcome to the Temple of Hip Hop. If you want to pick up the pace in terms of your studies, I always recommend movies like The Secret, What the Bleep Do We Know, Waking Life. There's a new one out called Kudlow. I think it's called Kudlow, which talks about spirits, actually. Obviously, you can catch these movies on Gaia. You can catch them on Hulu. You can catch them on, I think Netflix even has some as well. But these are movies to really focus your mind on what it is we're discussing here. Having said that, come back to the heritage now and the birth. So what we're looking to realize here today is that is your self-worth. Is how do you raise your self-worth? From where you're sitting, from where you are sitting, how do you actually raise your self-worth from your point of view? And the answer has to do with two things. One, self-mastery raises self-worth. And two, knowing what belongs to you. Chasing after, and I'll get back to self-mastery in a minute, but chasing after that which is not yours, inherently yours, usually leads to poverty. Now, this is going to be hard for some people to understand or overstand, but when it comes to raising your own self-worth, where your reputation or your skill or whatever it is, whatever it is from you is valuable and people are calling upon it, and it is what is feeding you. You're not making your living by way of a job, let's say, a 9 to 5. This is entrepreneurial language I'm speaking right now, where you have to make your own money from your own hand. Even if you have a job, what about that entrepreneurial spirit where from your own body, from your own hand, your own mouth, your own physicality, you can make something for yourself, a value for yourself, a value in that way for yourself. I just mentioned that because this light is actually pretty bright. Yeah, if we could just lower that. I was just starting to see that. Yeah, just lower it down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, there's a little more cooler thing here. Thanks. G Simone in the building, y'all. So what I'm talking about here is, first and foremost, the depth of raising your value, your self-worth, the depth of it. And the depth of it, before I get back to self-mastery, the depth of it has to do with knowing what is rightfully yours, knowing what is inherently yours. Chasing after what is not yours leads to poverty. It costs too much money, energy, time, and ultimately when you achieve it, you find that it's not yours. This is entrepreneurial language that I'm speaking right now. And this is the language that frees you. This is the language that empowers you. I'm living this language right now. I make my money and my livelihood too, not just the money, but livelihood, on my reputation, on my skill, on the persona that I built up over a 35-year period. Those that are young right now, in your 20s or 30s, you may want to think about this. You may want to think about who you want to be at 50, at 60, at 70. Think about that. Think about yourself at these ages. It'll size you up on what you're supposed to do in your 20s and in your 30s. So knowing what is rightfully yours begins with the idea that you have a birthright and you have a heritage. And, well, actually, I should say this. You have a birthright, a legacy, and a tradition. And this birthright, this legacy, and this tradition is your heritage. A heritage is what is passed on to you. Heritage is what is actually passed on to you. It's the package itself. And knowing what is rightfully yours begins with knowing your heritage, what belongs to you, your birthright, your tradition, your ritual. When you're successful with what is rightfully yours, it don't matter what everybody else got. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you've mastered who you are and what you have. Once you've mastered who you are and what you have, it doesn't matter what everybody else has. You are valuable. You are wealthy. You are actually going to attract to you now people with different resources and so on. And why? Because you are now valuable. Valuable people hang out with valuable people. So, and value looks for value. So if you're not valuable, valuable people are not looking for you. And to raise your value, you have to advertise the fact, or it will be advertised, that you are the master at something. That you have perfected and completed something. And once you become the master at something, now you don't have to chase money. Money's chasing you. And this is the beginning of your heritage. What's being passed on to you? Hip hop belongs to you. And get this, hip hop belongs to you. Feel that for a minute. I mean, try to really understand that, because see, I come from a place where hip hop actually belonged to us and we felt it and we knew it and we know it. But a younger generation, or a generation just coming up now, may not feel that hip hop belongs to you. Or you may be of a different culture altogether, a different race, a different race other than black folk. You know, you may say, no, that's black folk stuff. Hip hop doesn't belong to me. And this is where you have to raise your consciousness, because hip hop is not a race or a color or a class or a gender. Hip hop is a shared idea. It's a metaphysical principle. It never enters the physical world. We went over this a couple of lessons ago. This is what hip hop actually is. It's a culture. It's actually a character and a way to be. So anybody loyal to the character and the original way to be is loyal to hip hop and can be considered an authentic hip hopper. But the person who thinks like that is the person who believes that they are hip hop. And I don't mean with mouth, I am hip hop. No, I mean with your actual being. I wake up in the morning, I'm hip hop. I go to sleep at night, I'm hip hop. I'm looking out for hip hop. I'm engaged in it. In fact, if you take it even deeper, I am looking to master hip hop. I'm looking to be perfected in hip hop. I'm looking to perfect one or more of the 9 elements of hip hop. This is what's going to raise our value. And we talked about this last week with the Refinitions, the raising of value. Why we study the Refinitions, why, if you're going to teach this, you're going to, the Refinitions is a body of knowledge that raises your self-worth. If you could teach it, if you could speak the language of the Refinitions, memorize it, and be able to speak the language of the Refinitions, really of the first chapters of the entire gospel of hip hop, real hip hop, the 3 elements of hip hop, the 3 natures of hip hop, the 9 elements of hip hop. Come on now. The spellings of hip hop. Come on now. If you could teach hip hop like this, you raise your self-worth. That's the point of knowing this. It don't make no sense to know this if it's not going to raise your self-worth, if it's not going to bring to you the prosperity that it's actually bringing to me right now. I'm imparting to you a technique that actually commands real value in society, including money. So this is the heritage that's being passed on to you. I am KRS-ONE. I can't escape it. I am this dude, KRS-ONE. And I can't escape the fact that in 1973, I was there at 1600 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, next door to Kool Herc, among others, Kool Herc was at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx. Why would God put me there at 8 years old to witness the birth of hip hop? Who knows? But now we know, because that 8-year-old didn't become a lawyer, a doctor, an architect, a business owner, or whatever. That very 8-year-old, as with all the thousands of 8-year-olds that was out there, this one 8-year-old becomes an MC, becomes part of the culture he watched, becomes something, a believer in God, a respecter of the ancestors. This is who was there in 1973 watching hip hop become. And that 8-year-old would become KRS-ONE. Knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. That 8-year-old would become this dude and now start a temple and say, this is how we're going to preserve the original concepts of hip hop, because I was there from day one. Now, I'm saying this not as aggrandizement of myself. This is for you, the scholar, the apprentice, to realize what your power is. You are learning from an original source. Now, there are other original sources out there, no doubt. I was with Grandmaster Kaz last night. Don't even sleep. That was amazing. I got a chance to hook up with my man. And we will be grabbing that mic together as well. Got a chance to hook up with Kool Mo D as well when I was there as well, and so on. As I mention this because they too are teachers of hip hop. They too, in fact, those two in particular, if I could add Melly Mel in there as well, are actually the ones that influenced me, are my teachers. Those that, when I didn't even know what hip hop was or was trying to figure it out, Kool Mo D already had records out under the group Treacherous 3, and they was already dropping knowledge. It wasn't just rhymes. Kool Mo D was dropping knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Body rock, the lyrics on that was crazy. Go back and check the record. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And I know we can. And I think it was a Sister Sledge, or a Pointer Sisters record that they did over. Treacherous 3 crushed it. The lyrics that they were saying was straight metaphysical, out of this world, straight philosophy back in the early 80s. I was with these teachers last night. I'm not going to get into Grandmaster Kaz and the Cold Crush. We don't have to do all that. But I was with these teachers last night. And I mention that because this is legacy, okay? This is legacy being passed on to you right now through this institution called the Temple of Hip Hop. No other institution in the world has this specific responsibility. And this is what gives you a specific authority within the culture of hip hop, within the teaching even of the culture, with no disrespect to anybody. We're just talking truth and we're just talking real life. But I am hip hop's first teacher, period. That's it. I'm even burdened by it. It's not even something but I'm hip hop's first teacher. No, it's actually a burden and a big responsibility. But I mention that for you, the listener, those that are listening, the apprentice, the future scholar. You got to know the importance of taking these sessions every week and learning from an original source. Kool Mo D is an original source. Grandmaster Kaz is an original source. Melly Mel is an original source. And a whole host of others are original sources. And here you are learning from one original source, KRS-ONE. I'm an original source on a variety of levels. One of which is that I'm the first to declare myself the teacher. And I say this respectfully because hip hop has many teachers, and you might want to become one yourself. But I'm the first to declare that I am the teacher, and then go about teaching and approaching hip hop as a teachable subject. When I was rhyming, I didn't rhyme about the other stuff. I was the teacher. I came with edutainment and tried to talk about vegetarianism, metaphysics, history, theology, these kinds of things. I called myself a philosopher and put that into hip hop, that you could be cool and you could be you could be smart, intelligent, and still be cool. We don't think of it much today, but when I was coming up, to actually be smart was not cool. Ignorance reigned supreme. When I was coming up, it was something special to enter in and say, "No, man, I read. Okay, nah, man, I've been somewhere. I read. I hang with scholars. Okay, this is what that was weird. Like what?" Until we started battling, and well, you know the rest. So the idea is that I'm going back now to heritage. Heritage is that which is passed on to you. It is what is yours. Okay, and that's what I'm passing on to you. This heritage. And how do you become part of our heritage? You protect it. You preserve it. You actually become it and pass it on. And this is a voluntary decision. This is a voluntary decision. Nobody's forcing. There's no obligation. And it's really levels in understanding in terms of your knowledge of hip hop. How deep do you want to go? You put your foot in the water. You want to put the leg in the water. You want to put the body in the whole torso. You want to get, or do you want the whole thing? You know, how deep do you really want to go? Well, I'm talking from the deepest level. Well, not the deepest, but for this conversation, I'm talking from the deepest level of, to raise your self-worth, you have to know what your legacy is. You have to know what rightfully belongs to you. Don't go chasing after what somebody else got and what somebody else is doing, or other cultures, or other spiritual beliefs, or other, before you check yourself. What do you have? What can you do? And if you can't do something, or you don't have anything that you could call upon, that's where hip hop can actually come in and save the day. Master these elements. Master the language by which I'm speaking. This is a consciousness raising and a self-worth raising language that I'm speaking. And that's being passed on to you right now. Heritage can only be transferred by the originators of whatever is being passed on. And this is the sacredness of our temple. This is the sacredness of it. Heritage can only be transferred by the originators of what is being passed on. I am an originator, and I'm passing on the heritage. I am the first to write the science of rap and the gospel of hip hop. We are the first to teach hip hop in the universities. We have a whole slew of firsts. And this is not grandizement for me. I'm saying this so that you know the importance of the knowledge in which you're getting. Don't let nobody downplay what you got and upplay what they got. Yeah, what we got is, yeah, you know, this and that. Yeah, Harvard got a hip hop. I studied hip hop at Harvard. I studied hip hop at this place. I studied hip hop at that place. No, but did you study hip hop with hip hop's first teacher? Who's giving you the authority to actually teach hip hop? Where do you get your cultural authority from? Can I see your written documentation? Can I hear something? Because I got mine as a temple member. This is what you're saying. I got mine as a temple member. I'm taught from an original source, KRS-ONE. We can look him up right now. We know who that is. Who did you say your teacher was again? Who? Professor what? No, sorry. That's not an original source. And if these professors don't know the teachings of the original sources, then they're just exploiting our culture for money. And you got to point that out. You got to point that out. And why? Because we're about preserving our culture. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. Why is it important? Not to call anybody out or disrespect anybody, but the preservation of culture has to do with the protection of culture. Here, we are maintaining and preserving hip-hop in its original form. More accurately, we are maintaining and preserving the hip-hop that made us successful. We are preserving what we know to be true and right of hip-hop. We talked about this a little bit last week, this part right here. More accurately, we are maintaining and preserving the hip hop that made us successful. There's a lot of different variations to hip hop. Hip hop is a universal language, and everybody's added and came up with this and came up with that and pointed this out and pointed that out, but not all of it worked. Not all of it worked. And this is a distinction in your scholarship for you to really, really understand. You know, hip hop has a lot of history and has a lot of contributors, but everything didn't work. And hip hop has a lot of history. All of it doesn't need to be known for the next generation to move forward. Just because you have a history in hip hop doesn't mean we need to know it. I know that's harsh. That's harsh to say, because we applaud our pioneers and those who have contributed to hip hop. We hail them up. We honor them, no doubt. As a matter of fact, where else can they be honored if we don't honor them ourselves? So we definitely applaud that. But at the same time, why do we need to know your name? How is that going to raise my self-worth to know KRS-ONE? How does that, what? No, I need to know KRS-ONE's name as part of my education in hip-hop, because he is hip-hop's first teacher. That's all. Now, all the other accolades is something else. But when you're dealing with real teaching and you want to get to the real foundation with provable data, real truth, real history, you know, what really happened, no imagination, is what really went down. Well, how can you teach hip hop without being part of this course right here? This is hip hop's first teacher teaching hip hop's first knowledge. This is the first knowledge. How can you teach it? You're basically exploiting the culture. Or you just don't care, really. You're not really hip hop. You're just, you know, teaching Tupac's lyrics or the importance of hip rap or social, the importance of rap in society. You know, these are some of the things. You know, music, hip hop as music, and why do we need to know all that? There's really no reason. The reason we need to know all that is because that's all that the teacher knows, because they're not hip hop. And I say this respectfully, but it's the truth. Here you're learning real hip hop from real hip hop. So our perspective is a whole lot different. Dude, you got to eat off this. Okay, you got to keep a roof over your head on this. You got to provide for a family, maybe send a kid to college on this. This is our lifestyle. This is how we eat. This is how we live. Okay, so we're coming from a whole different perspective. Okay, we didn't teach class all week and look at video and CD, with all due respect. We was just on stage last night. Okay, now we're here teaching this course this afternoon right now. This is the subjective, real teaching of hip hop. We are masters of what we are teaching you. And this is the point. You got to eat. It don't make no sense knowing this stuff and knowing any of this stuff if you can't eat from it, if you can't raise your value, if people ain't calling you to teach them what I'm teaching you right now. It don't make no sense to know it. This is not about memory. Oh, I know it so I can memorize, so I can say, you know, da, da, da. No, this is real knowledge. And that's what heritage is all about, real knowledge. This is what's true and right for us. This is what we know works. There's a lot of different hip hop. There's a lot of different opinions. But we only was interested in what really got us through, what really worked for us. We preserve that and we pass it on to the next generation. And really, that's what the gospel of hip hop is. That's really what this is the accumulation of wisdom and knowledge and experiences that hip hop has had in its first 48, some 50 years, its first 50 years, coming up on its first 50 years. This is accumulation of all of the wisdom that we actually learned and you know, accumulate. I'm thinking, got my mind going back to that accumulated knowledge because we lived it, and I can't even speak it without it coming up in my mind. Some of the things we actually live. So I say this to say that this is heritage, and I'm passing this on to you. If you so desire, if you have the mind to adopt it and continue it, now you are part of the heritage. You are part of the tradition. You call the same way I call upon Kool Herc, or like last night, a Kaz or a Kumo D. You may call upon me because I'm your connection. We are talking like this right now. And you may, in years to come, may say, yeah, KRS-ONE, I am a teacher of hip hop. Like you would say to your class, I am a teacher of hip hop, authentic teacher of hip hop. I am the authentic teacher of hip hop because I am hip hop, period. I am part of the tradition. Now, you say, oh, well, how are you hip hop? I am the culture. My teacher was KRS-ONE. Oh, if you can't call upon a pioneer or some originator to say, this is who I derive my authority from, you have no authority. You're just coming into something like a colonist. You're just coming in and claiming authority that you really don't have. Because authority comes with lineage. Comes with lineage. I belong to a line of kings. I belong to a line of queens, a line of priests, a line of philosophers. I come from a line of. And once you come from that line of, your value starts to go up. People who have no lineage have no value. They got to start over from scratch. And it's all a mental thing, too. You think you don't have no lineage, only because you're ignorant of it and what lineage means, what legacy means, the importance of tradition. The importance of tradition is that you raise your self-worth because you got something to reach back on. My great-grandfather planted that tree, so you have the right to eat from it. Somebody else coming along just plucking the fruit. Oh, no, wait a minute. And that's what's happening with hip hop right now. People just come along plucking the fruit because we was too young to understand what it is we had. But God protected us with rap music and gave the world rap, that one fruit, and protected all 8 others. Now the rap is dissipating. Now we all streaming. Nobody can sell an album. People are like, hip hop, blah. Now is the time for us to rise. Right now. Now's the time. We say, okay, hip hop was never created. No culture is created in one day. For a culture to be created, you got to talk about 50-year cycles, 60-year cycles. And hip hop is coming up on its first 50 years. So those record companies that exploited hip hop, those movie channels or music channels or whatever that was exploiting hip hop in the 80s and 90s, they're no more. They're gone. Okay, they're gone. And the ones that are exploiting hip hop today, 20 years from now, they'll be gone. And hip hop will still exist. Who's ripping off who? You got to take a look at the truth of the situation. And this is what heritage is. As long as we exist as the original culture, we are immortal. That's what we passing on. These corporations, they come and they go because they're not real. They need us to survive. So the minute we decide not to, the minute they can't survive off whatever they are on us for, they're the ones that disappear, not us. And get that lesson. Tower Records used to exploit hip hop with nothing going back to the culture. Louis Tower Records today. And I could go through all the record labels, the independents, all of them got bought up, swallowed up to one conglomerate now. Universal, Sony, bought everybody up. Some of these music executives, I see them, it's so sad. I saw a Sony executive working at FedEx Kinko's, this thing. We do copies and printing. And respect to him, he had a job, you know what I'm saying? But he told me, he said, yo, I used to work at Sony. I said, yeah, and he's a high-level executive. We used to think these people was going to work forever, that they never was going to get fired. They're going to be here for, no, dude, working right there. Right there, was in charge of a $5, $6, $7, $10 million budget, and then the next day you working at FedEx, Kinko's. Next day. And so if you don't know how to live life, if you don't know what's valuable, you fall. You fall. And so if you think money is valuable, you on your way out the door to begin with. There's no value to money. There's only value to your reputation, to your skill, your sense of self-mastery. Once you have self-mastery, once you have mastered something about yourself, your value goes up. Once you have a skill that is in demand, your value goes up. And what we're teaching here is that hip hop is not only a lifestyle, but it's also a teachable skill that raises your self-worth. And this is the teaching heritage that you are getting today. This is how you became a scholar, because you sat down with KRS-ONE and you heard him over a period of time explain the gospel of hip hop and the teachings by which the temple comes with. So knowing what is rightfully yours, which is this moment right now, this moment, these teachings, these are rightfully yours. This is yours. Knowing what is rightfully yours is the beginning of one's self-worth and value in the world. Mastery, or mastering what belongs to you, is the beginning of one's freedom and power in the world. Mastering what belongs to you. Hip-hop belongs to you. Mastery. Don't worry about what other people have. Focus on what is rightfully yours. And look at them. When hip-hop was first beginning, everybody had stuff. Everybody was doing stuff. Everybody was running around. Black people, Latino people, white people. Everybody was running around trying to achieve. But we had hip-hop. And so we focused in on our little square, on our circle. And we didn't go to this and that and the other. We focused on what we had and now created this. So when you focus on what is inherently yours, your value goes up. As I said at the beginning, we are a hip-hop preservation ministry. The Temple of Hip Hop is a hip-hop preservation ministry, archive, school, and society. And there's that word preserve. Okay, there's the word preserve. Hip-hop preservation. A lot of people are throwing that word around. I was with a member of the Universal Hip Hop Museum last night, Washington chapter. Big up to them as well. I was with them last night, and you know, we're all talking about this word preservation. I thought I'd just say, because talking also about legacy, heritage, tradition, birthright, these things also have to do with preservation. And to really know what it means to preserve something, like for instance, to preserve, okay, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, to preserve something means, to preserve something is to keep that something safe from harm or injury. Okay, to keep something safe from harm or injury. That is what it means to preserve something. The meaning of the word preserve is to keep in safety and take care of, to save or rescue, and to guard something. Okay, you hear these words? Take care of, save, rescue, to guard against harm. This is what it means to preserve something. To preserve something also means to keep it in existence, to maintain and even retain something. You know, like to keep it to oneself. To keep one's possessions to oneself also means to preserve, or preserve also means that. Preserve also means to keep from physical change or chemical change, or philosophical change. To preserve is conservative. To preserve is to keep things the way they are. And so when we say we are a preservation society, preservation ministry, we are preserving hip hop in its original form. We're not against change. We're not against innovation, but somebody has to keep the original intact. To preserve hip hop, then, we teach that we must preserve ourselves. To preserve hip-hop, we must preserve ourselves, and we must preserve each other. Cooperation, not a competition, is how we preserve hip-hop. Helping one another, supporting one another, preserving one another, preserving yourself is the preservation of hip-hop. Keeping yourself out of harm, keeping yourself safe, even healthy. That's preserving hip-hop. Hip-hop is not a thing. So there's no thing that you can preserve that's going to preserve hip-hop. Hip-hop is you and me. Hip-hop is us. So to preserve hip-hop, you have to preserve yourself. You have to keep yourself out of harm's way, out of injury. You have to maintain a self. Yes, you want to maintain, you want a little innovation, you want to add to yourself. That's called growth and development. But you got to know what that core you is and maintain the core you. All of this leads to skill mastery. Anything that you master or perfect or complete will raise your self-worth. So master yourself. Preserving yourself as hip-hop raises your self-worth. This is so important for you to know. Preserving yourself as hip-hop raises your self-worth. That's what I did. That's what we all did. We preserved ourselves as hip-hop. We focused on ourselves as hip-hop. We didn't look at anything else but hip-hop. And so we created a reality called hip-hop. Now we live in that reality, and I'm sending my child to college. I'm keeping a roof over my head. I'm able to do calls like this. I can't stop eating for some reason. What? This is what it means to be successful in hip-hop. It means not all the material stuff. It means that you've mastered yourself, that you've raised your self-worth, that your value comes from you. Whether you have a job, don't have a job. Whether you're an entrepreneur, not an entrepreneur. At some point, you got to think in terms of your study of hip-hop, that the value got to come from you. So I'm coming up on my first break here, Son One, get prepared. I'm coming up on my first break, and I'm going to conclude this first part with this because I wanted to make sure you understood what this second piece is going to be about, the Refinitions, what the Refinitions are reading when I come back is what it's really going to be about. Because heritage, which is the package that holds your traditions, your legacy, your birthright, these are the things that make you valuable. As a scholar, where do you get your authority to teach hip hop? As a scholar, you got to ask this question. And it's a legitimate question. You know, and also this is the reason why people go to Harvard or Yale or some of the more prestigious universities, because they are authentic. They are original sources for what they teach. They've been there 100 years. They're turning out leaders and doctors and lawyers and people who are changing the world. And, you know, people, they're pushing, you know, Harvard and Yale and these other colleges, you know, they're pushing this thing. And that's why people go. You got to, I got a degree from Harvard. You can do the same thing at North Carolina State. But because I got a degree from Harvard, somehow your eyebrow goes up. I got my law degree from Yale, as opposed to whoever, community college somewhere. If you can get a degree from, I don't know, but I'm just saying, you know, that name Yale, that name Harvard, that name UCLA, that name New York University, Columbia, you know, these names, I got did this and that. I did my master's at Columbia and I went on and did that. You know, the reason for this is because these things matter in the education world. Where you get your education from and how authentic your education is, that matters in the world of education. In the world of entertainment, it don't matter. Because the world of entertainment, you making up facts. You just making stuff up and everything's make-believe in the world of entertainment. But in the real world of teaching, where you have to back up what you say with real facts, retrievable data, real history, like, you know, you can't just splurt something out. You have to actually back that up with evidence. In that world, now we start talking about real scholarship. And that's why you hear learning from hip-hop's first teacher, KRS-ONE, learning from the actual architect of the culture itself, KRS-ONE. Learning from this person empowers you. It is a legacy, a tradition that you are joining in on, like I did. Of course, I was there in 1973, but I didn't know nothing, okay, until we got later on in life. I'm like 20. Now I'm learning, that was Cedar Park. That was this. But I grew up in it, looking at the park jams and this, that, and the other. And eventually I had to join. I had to make a conscious decision in my own mind to be hip hop and to put my loyalties here. And so I then met this one, that one, the other one, so on, so on. I did my music, I did the tours, I wrote the books, and now but first I joined the legacy. And then the legacy was already going. I joined the legacy and made my mark within the legacy. Here you are now, you have that same option. You have access to an original source. And so you can join this legacy right now. Just with a consciousness shift in your own head, say, look, I do understand this legacy. I do understand the teaching legacy. And I am talking to hip hop's first teacher. I'm talking to hip hop's first philosopher. I'm actually learning from hip hop's first teacher. You all should be writing books. All of you should be writing books right now. You know, what I learned, you know, and look at the value you would raise. Now you got a book. Now you're on the book market. You know, these things are important. So this is the first part of it. To preserve hip hop means to preserve yourself, because we are hip hop. And your value raises when you're part of a legacy, when you're part of a tradition, when you are defending a tradition, when you are continuing a tradition, a lineage, a legacy. This is where your value raises. Skill mastery in that legacy also takes your value over the top. This is the first part that we want to talk about. So we'll come back with the Refinitions. I am KRS-ONE. This is the Temple of Hip Hop. Let's take our first break.
Can I give you a hug, man?
Oh, come on.
I owe you a lot. I owe you a lot, man.
Word.
Man. It's like hip hop human form. Damn.
No me without you.
You ready?
3,
2, 1. Well, this is Mutaru here with Strokes and Rhymes. I'm here with the teacher,
Here we is.
the educator. Knowledge reigns supreme. KRS-ONE after his show at the National. You know, it was an honor and a privilege to see you move here these last couple of weeks, and you know, you capped it off right with this show tonight.
All praises due to the Most High. There was a snowstorm that brought us here.
Right.
And then the crowd waited. To me, it's nothing that I could say to that. The honor is theirs. The honor is theirs. Nice sized crowd. Usually when you cancel shows or move shows like that, they finished. You know, yeah, you could put the advertisement back, yeah, okay, but the show is basically done. So to see this crowd come out like this, and then of course you saw the response, and then of course I just got off at the end of it. That ending was so ill. I just felt like going in the crowd, man. We did a little something on stage, but the hunger was in the crowd.
Right, we felt that.
So we had to go in there and make that happen.
Yeah.
Well, our soul ate well today.
Right, you did.
No doubt.
You've been here for the last few weeks talking to different schools. I was at 2 of the 3 speeches you did in East State and VCU.
Okay.
I had to get all the knowledge I could.
No doubt.
What do you think about the response of the young black kids, and not even black kids, but all the kids that was there?
Let me start with young black, because young black is always getting dissed. No one has hope in our children.
Right.
Excuse me. They may say they do, but the criticisms don't match up. What I saw in VA, I mean, from the universities, I mean, I also roamed around. You know, I went to the science. Oh, actually, my
Got some good seafood.
Yo, yeah. Oh man, I can't even. Yo, I ate here. Okay. I'm gonna eat when I get here. But I mentioned all that to say that that's what you come to a place like VA for. You don't come here and go to Denny's and get a drink and go back to the wherever you at.
Right.
This is the birthplace of black history, Virginia. And I'm not talking about Jamestown, Virginia. I'm talking about Carter Goodwin Woodson. He's Virginia. He's a Virginia-born native. Right. Carter G. Woodson invented Negro history. Matter of fact, 1916, Carter G. Woodson here in Virginia came out with what was called the the Journal of Negro History, 1916. 1926, he changed it up and came up with Negro History Week, 1926. 40 years later, 1976, he comes up with well, not him, but his followers come up with Black History Month, 76. Okay. It's 2016. So this is 100 years of Black history being taught in the United States, beginning in Virginia, 1916, okay? To me, this is no coincidence. I follow a different path. So when I see that Barack Obama's presidency began in 2008, which was 100 years of the NAACP, 1908 to 108, he becomes president. The end of his presidency marks the 100th year of Black history. So we're closing a chapter now in Black history. 100 years, the dream of our ancestors was met in Barack Obama, a Black president with this dream. This was it. But now that history is closed. What are we gonna do now? Right. 101 years now, 101. What are we now doing? We the new Blacks on the table now. So going back to your original question on that, yo, young Black kids, young Black people are rising up. They're gravitating toward people like me like a magnet, okay? I'm even impressed, shocked myself. Young people are talking to me about Garvey at 14 years old. I didn't grow up with that. 14 years old, you was talking Daffy Duck and bubblegum.
But you taught us that way.
Yo. Then I am honored because, and you know what? That's what the parents say to these young kids. The parents are turning the young kids on to edutainment, to you must learn, to why is that. You can see the consciousness rising in Black people. But now, you also see the consciousness rising in white people, Asians, Latinos. Latinos didn't even want to be Black. You know how many Latinos, light-skinned, tried to pass for white because they were light-skinned and had the good hair? What the hell is that? They tried to go and pass for white. Nah, now we got a mortal technique. They know exactly what the African is now, okay? We going back to Alphonse Schomburg, master of Black history, Puerto Rican now. We going back to Ruby D in hip hop. I'm MC Ruby D, a Puerto Rican. You might think I'm Black by the way that I'm speaking. Latinos are waking up. White folk waking up. I said today to my white brothers and sisters, don't get duped up in white supremacy because that's a trick word. It's making young white kids think that the supreme version of them is violence and hatred. Black intellectuals gotta watch out. If you're a Black intellectual, like I said, you're interested in the human mind. Of course we standing on Blackness. We know exactly what that is. But we're prepared to go past it. We're intellectuals. We're prepared to think about other radical new ideas. Let's think our way out of this oppression. The place was packed. Yeah. Those are like-minded people. That wasn't just fans coming to pay to see a rap concert. That was family out there. That's beyond rap. That's beyond, this is something else we did today.
And you say that, you know, many years ago, you started a powerful movement called the
Peace.
Man, you just had to cut that off. I thought that was the lecture. I was getting something to drink. I was like,
well, no, to me, it fit with what you were saying as far as carrying on a lineage. Or you said in a bunch of times within that, even with Carter G. Woodson, of how his people, after he laid down the foundation, actually further develop what it is. So I just wanted to give a taste. If you take another break, we can listen to maybe a little bit more, or at the end, they could get the rest of what was going down.
You know, that was a good segue there. We're only going to read today up to page 128. I'm going to start it on page 113. We're coming to page 113. in your gospel of hip hop. As you know, this is the gospel of hip hop. You could always go to KRS-ONE.com and get yourself a copy of the gospel of hip hop. Those that have their gospels of hip hop, hold them in your hand. This is our connection to each other over many miles. In that sense, the same gospel that you have in your hand is the same gospel I have in my hand right now. So, son one, let's get it popping. Get it started here. So yeah, page 113. I have one note to make before we start, and that is from last week's reading. I want to read this part one more time. It's paragraph 58. Just before you get to the break-in, just above it, you'll see paragraph 58. And what we're going to do is just focus on that paragraph because it's also our connection from what we was discussing last just this our first segment, this tradition, birthright, so on, knowing what is inherently yours. But I didn't mark it off last week, and I think I should. So let's get this week. It is paragraph 58. We're not going to do the whole paragraph. This is the part we're going to do. Here we go. A perfected self, meaning a life purpose fulfilled, inherits the intellectual ability to know anything. Focus now upon the perfection of your self-expression. Be not envious of the blessings and skills that God has given to others, ignoring the blessings and skills that God has given you. That's sort of our first half in a paragraph. Again, a perfected self, meaning a life purpose fulfilled. That's what we mean when we say a perfected self, a life purpose fulfilled. A perfected self, meaning a life purpose fulfilled, inherits. That's another one as well. Inherit. Okay, inherits. Okay, that's heritage. The intellectual ability to know anything. Once you've mastered yourself, you can know anything. Imagine that. Focus now upon the perfection of your self-expression. And I'm sorry, when you say perfection, you know anything. This is what I mean by that, is that it has been long known by philosophers that the study of any one subject will lead you to all others. Think about that. The mastery of any one subject. Let's say you say, here's what I got. I got phone. Okay, so phone, I'm gonna master this phone. I'm gonna learn how to make one, build one. I'm gonna sell them. I'm gonna master the phone. The mastery of that phone is going to lead you to marine biology. You might learn something about Einstein. It's going to swing you over to architecture and design. It's going to swing you over to English, grammar, math, obviously. The study of any one thing. Here's towel, rag, rag. Okay, if you study this rag, okay, if you just study this, say, I'm going to master this. I'm going to become the master of rags or washcloths. I guess that's what this is called. I call it a rag, but a washcloth. I'm going to become the master of the washcloth. To master this, it's going to take you everywhere. You got to study math, English, Einstein. It's going to take you all through different countries, anything to master it, not just know that it's this, but to master it. I know everything about this. I can make one myself. I am totally absorbed into this, into the existence of this. To master something, it takes you to every field. To master any one thing, you're going to learn about a whole bunch of stuff and probably anything, everything. And that's what this means. A perfected self, meaning a life purpose fulfilled, inherits the intellectual ability to know anything. Focus now upon the perfection of your self-expression. Be not envious of the blessings and skills that God has given to others, ignoring the blessings and skills that God has given to you. That's the highlight. Now, of course, in that same sentence, it says, now, take a moment now to review and reflect upon our list of hip-hop elements, terms, and codes. And now we get to our reading right now. So this is called the Refinitions, and we went over last week that Refinitions are redefined definitions. And redefined because hip-hop has definitions. We went over that before we came into the play. Hip-hop had definitions to it. It was scattered, but we still knew already that we was breaking, emceeing, graffiti, or DJing. We knew that, you know what I'm saying? So, and beatboxing, we knew we was that. These are redefined definitions. Again, this is what we know works. This is the difference between the Temple of Hip Hop's teachings and all other institutions. We are only documenting what we know works, okay? And the truth, of course. We're documenting the truth, but we're documenting it in a way that it matters to the next generation. This is what you need to know. So we start with breaking. Breaking. The study and application of street dance forms, originally called the go-off, burning, and or boy yoin yoin. Breaking is commonly called break dancing or b-boying today. And it now includes the once independent dance forms. These were independent dance forms: up rocking, popping, and locking, jailhouse or slap boxing, double dutch, electric boogie, and capoeira martial arts. This part here, up rocking, next one, popping and locking. I had to put the popping and locking in there because they're said two ways within hip hop. A lot of people from common language say pop and lock, pop locking, or popping and locking, or pop and locking. They use it as the same word or the same term, but popping is one thing and locking is something else. Locking you can find with the old school. There's a sitcom called What's Happening, and there was a character called Rerun in this sitcom, and Rerun was locked. He was a locker. He was doing the locking moves. I can't even do them, but they're locking moves. And popping is a different dance form. It's popping. You popping your body in certain ways. You can see that in Wild Style has a little bit of it. Beat Street, most of those movies, Wild Style, Beat Street, they have scenes of b-boys and b-girls popping. Like that. So I just to make that distinction, that it's not pop locking. It's popping, which is one dance form, and locking is another dance form. It is coming off. I'll read this one more time. Up rocking, popping, and locking, jailhouse or slap boxing. I gotta bring that back. We used to be. It's all of this. It was like a code of some sort. We used to do all of this, guard your head, all of this, and you would slap the other person. It would be like this, that bah, bah, and they'd be trying to get you, and you blocking it like this, and it was called slap boxing. And many serious fights broke out because somebody wanted to play around with slap boxing and got their face smacked. But anyway, think about the good old days. Jailhouse or slap boxing, double dutch, which is a jump rope, jump rope thing. Electric boogie, and capoeira martial arts. These are distinct dance forms that have all come together under this umbrella called breaking or break dancing. Everybody who engages in these kinds of dances are usually called b-boys or b-girls. It is also commonly referred to as street freestyle street dancing. The practitioners of traditional breaking are called b-boys, b-girls, and breakers. That's the term, not break dancers. And we're not doing break dancing. That's a common term, like the way rap is a common term for emceeing, or graffiti art is a common term for aerosol art, like that. So know these distinctions going in. It's breaking. That's the term. And we are b-boys and b-girls, or breakers. Breaking moves are also used in aerobics and other exercises that refine the body and relieve stress. Dance and other rhythmic body movements appear at the genesis of human awareness and remain the center of good health. Breaking gets our hearts pumping at about 120 beats per minute. And if we can break or dance at least 3 times a week for only 20 minutes, we would have enhanced our physical health and prolonged our very lives by years. Like letters, dance is also a form of communication. In fact, popping, locking, and electric boogie are all body symbols, even body letters. Dance is often used as a form of self-expression. It is like a language, body language. It is also a form of healing and rejuvenation. Breakdancing, acrobatic style of street dancing. That's the definition of breakdancing. While this is a quote, while breakdancing, a term disowned by all b-boys, began with crews like the Nigga Twins, the Zulu Kings, the Sal Soul Crew, the City Boys, Freeze Force, Star Child La Rock, the Disco Kids, and the KC Crew. The most influential was undoubtedly the Rocksteady Crew. Formed in 1977 by Jojo Torres, Jimmy Lee, Mango Rock, Spy, and Jimmy D, the Rocksteady Crew gathered together the best of the second wave of Latino b-boys who had come to dominate the field since it migrated out of the Bronx in the early 1970s. The RSC, meaning the Rocksteady Crew, main innovation was to make b-boying more athletic, more gymnastic. Many of these moves were pioneered by the 2 b-boys who are generally considered the greatest, Richie Crazy Legs Colin, and Ken Swift Gabbert. Basically, Crazy Legs and Ken Swift. Moves like the windmill, the whip, the 1990, the chair, and the spider are credited to Crazy Legs and Ken Swift, who helped the RSC become the dominant crew in legendary battles against the Dynamic Breakers, the Floor Masters, and the New York City Breakers. And let me just stop here for a minute and show you a little bit of the wordplay, because I'm quoting this out of another book. I want to show you this. Crazy Legs and Ken Swift, it says here, moves like the windmill, the whip, the 1990, the chair, and the spider are credited to Crazy Legs and Ken Swift. Not created, credited. Because although Crazy Legs and Ken Swift can be called creators of these moves, you got to realize as scholars that these moves are not created by any one person. This is what's going on in the hood. This is what's going on. And really the creators of these moves, and keep in mind, look at what they're pointing out. The windmill, that's one whole move. Okay, the whip, that's another move. The 1990, Crazy Legs and Ken Swift most likely did not create these moves. They saw them, embellished upon them, and presented them to the public in such a way that they could take ownership and say, we did this. This is what it is. But as scholars, you got to know that the real energy going on, that even Crazy Legs and Ken Swift are looking at, there's an energy, an unnamed energy, an unformed movement in the street that we are all getting ideas from. We all pulling ideas from. And this feeling is what's called hip hop. This is what that feeling was. This is what it was, what was going on in the hood at the time. And if you ask Crazy Legs, or if you ask Rocksteady's rivals who created what, you'll get a whole different story. This particular book is crediting Crazy Legs and Ken Swift with moves like the windmill, the whip, the 1990, the chair, the spider. They crediting them. And that's how you would write that as a scholar. You don't know who came up with that, but let's give the credit to these guys because they were the most popular. But if you went ahead and asked the Dynamic Breakers or the Floor Masters or New York City Breakers or some of the others, they'd be like, no, it was this and it was that. And as a historian, as a scholar, you want to hear their side of the story too. You want to hear that. I'm continuing on. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, a kid named Don Campbell invented locking. Now, here's the word invented, okay? Locking, freezing in between moves. That doesn't even show you what locking is, but this is what this was written. The dance became so popular that he formed his own troupe in 1973. So imagine, locking was already before hip-hop. Troupe in 1973. The Campbell Lock Dancers, that was the name of their group, which included such minor celebs as Fred Rerun Berry. This is the Fred Rerun Berry I was talking about with the sitcom What's Happening. When you go watch this and try to go dig that up, the sitcoms, What's Happening, a guy named Fred Rerun Berry, who was Roger's best friend, and he was a b-boy. Straight up, and it is what it is. So he said he was part of the Campbell Lock Dancers. Okay, Campbell Lock. Well, let me read this to you one more time because I'm going back and forth. It's a major part of hip hop history. In Los Angeles, a kid named Don Campbell invented locking, freezing in between moves. The dance became so popular that he formed his own troupe in 1973, the Campbell Lock Dancers, which included such minor celebs as Fred Rerun Berry, Tony Basil, huge, okay, and Shabadoo Quinones, I think he just passed. The style was expanded by the Electric Boogaloos. This is another group, huge. These dudes was huge, okay. The Electric Boogaloos, Boogaloo Sam. This is the Electric Boogaloos. These are the names of the guys in it. Boogaloo Sam Solomon, Timothy. Boogaloo Sam Solomon, Timothy Poppin' Pete Solomon, Skeeter Rabbit, Twisto Flex Don, Creepin' Sid, and Ticking Will. These are these dudes, and these was real dudes, okay, who invented moves like popping, boogaloo, ticking, twist flex, and the old man while dancing to Zap Records. And this is the end quote. This is from Peter Shapiro, The Rough Guide to Hip Hop, a small book he put out, but this part was put in because it dealt with a lot of history, and I backed this history up as well. Talking to a few of these guys as well when I was out in Los Angeles. We'll go further on. This is the part that I learned later on. So we're reading on. In a letter written to the Temple of Hip Hop, B-boy historian Mikey Ice explains how the dance style of poppin' was created in Fresno, California, sometime around 1977 by a man named Boogaloo Sam, dancing to Roger Troutman and Zap Records. He explains in this letter, quote, the group was called the Electric Boogaloos, a group of young black kids from Edison High School on the west side of Fresno. My uncle was hyped by the whole movement. This was around 1977 until 1984. Poppin' got exposure to the world, then came to Oakland, etc. Mikey Ice continues, quote, just like the Bronx, this style of dancing was only going on here in Fresno, California, nowhere else in California, not even Los Angeles, except Locken, except Locken, which was Don Campbell. See, poppin' is Fresno, Locken is Los Angeles. He was locking, as I says, nowhere else in California, not even Los Angeles, except Locken, which was Don Campbell. He was locking at Compton Community College. Then came Rerun. Big ups to the Rocksteady crew for taking it across the oceans. But there was some nasty brothers before the Rocksteady crew, like the Nicholas brothers, Sammy Davis Jr. and Sandman. I got some footage of black folks on the cotton plantations with the illest footwork and up-rocking before hip-hop. End quote. So we could see where this is coming from as well. We could see where these dance moves are coming from. They were all over the country. And again, some, Mikey Ice is talking about, he's taking it back to the Nicholas brothers and Sammy Davis Jr. and Sandman, who would go on to influence James Brown and Michael Jackson, who would go on to influence, those who are b-boying in the 70s and 80s and now 90s. And you can see the lineage. You see a b-boy, you say, I'm carrying the Nicholas brothers lineage. They're like, oh, you know what time it is here on that. And that's the importance of having this knowledge, knowing that Don Campbell is doing the locking over in Los Angeles, and the boogaloos, the electric boogaloos, are doing the popping over in Fresno, California. That's important to know. So this was breaking. We're ending with breaking, popularized by James Brown, Don Campbell and the Campbell Lock Dancers, the Nigger Twins, Poppin' Pete, Dennis Vasquez, the Rubber Band Man. We didn't get into him. Rocksteady Crew, Pee Wee Dance, the New York City Breakers, the Los Angeles Breakers, Boogaloo Shrimp, Shabadoo, Quinones, Demons of the Mind, the Breeze Team, Michael Jackson, and others. MCing, the study and application of rhythmic talk, poetry, and divine speech. We're probably one of the only institutions that define MCing as divine speech. And notice how we are spelling it, E-M-C-E-E-I-N. That's a new word. That's not have a hyphen on the end like we're missing a G. No, this is a new word in the English language. MCing. Talk, poetry, and divine speech, commonly referred to as rapping or rap. Its practitioners are known as MCs or rappers. We at the temple don't spell MCs M.C. That is Master of Ceremonies. We recognize that spelling, of course. That's the first spelling, Master of Ceremonies. And there's that word master again. We spell our MCs E-M-C-E-E. That's a new word. That's a new definition. And that's why we're able to define it, because it's a new word. E-M-C-E-E. That's our word. MC or MCs or MCing. The MC is a hip-hop poet who directs and moves the crowd by rhythmically rhyming in spoken word. The MC is a cultural spokesperson. Technically, the MC is a creation of one's community, whereas the rapper is a creation of corporate interest. Did you get that? Why don't we go ahead and highlight that? Actually, you know what, guys? I don't have my pen in front of me. I'm going to have to get up. Oh, no. Hold on. Nope, that's something right here. All right, yeah, let's go ahead and highlight Roman numeral 1 on MCing. And I'll read it one more time. It's important to know this as scholars. People always say, what's the difference between rap and MCing? Well, here it is right here in black and white. The MC is a hip-hop poet who directs and moves the crowd by rhythmically rhyming in spoken word. The MC is a cultural spokesperson, period. The MC is a cultural spokesperson. So you don't even have to really rap. I mean, you could do it. This is the first paragraph. That's what it is. We know that. But that second part right there is that, no, the MC is a cultural spokesperson. A person who can articulate the culture. Technically, the MC is a creation of one's community, whereas the rapper is a creation of corporate interest. The word MC comes from the abbreviated form of Master of Ceremony, MC. In its traditional sense, MC referred to the hosting of an event, the master of a ceremony or an event. In its ancient sense, to MC meant to pray or to communicate with God. It was used by the Greeks to communicate with their oracles and to pray to their gods. What we are calling emceeing today, or what the mainstream calls rap, this is an ancient technique that goes way back and was used for other reasons, other purposes other than just entertainment. In its ancient sense, to MC meant to pray or to communicate with God. It was used by the Greeks to communicate with their oracles and to pray to their gods. The earliest known forms of emceeing were done by the ancient priests, sages, and philosophers of Africa and Asia. Later in history, the ancient art of emceeing would be practiced by African griots and djing, as they went from village to village, teaching, or rather performing, history and important life lessons. Emceeing, or rhythmic speech, divine speech. Oh, and let me also say this, that you should look that up too, griots and djing. Look up that and know a little bit about the history of that. These are the first MCs, and they go back tens of thousands of years. They start in Africa, and it's anyone who is performing a history using spoken word. You come from the apple tree. The apple tree? Yeah, the apple tree. Your mother was from that tree. And you rhyme it, and the kids are listening, and it's probably a djembe or some instrument banging or a flute or something going. This goes back thousands, tens of thousands of years. Let me get my water here. Forgive me, y'all. I had a late night last night. Went to dinner with my moms. We pigged out. I'm paying for it right now. It was crazy. They tried to pull out the lobster bites on us. It was sick. I went to some restaurant. They lost it. We think we're going in there to eat. The chefs come out, start pulling all types of stuff that we didn't even order. It was ridiculous. But I'm now paying for it. The belch is coming up now, and what they call it, tums. It's coming up on me now. Continuing the read, what I was saying was that the griots and djing, you want to do research on that and know. I'm not discussing them right now, but I'm just breezing over. But they are very important in the idea of what an MC is or was originally. MCing, or rhythmic speech, divine speech, also appears at the genesis of human awareness. It is the language of the heart. Early hip-hop has transformed the traditional character of the master of ceremonies to include crowd participation routines and poetry. Today, the MC seeks to be a master of the spoken word, not just the best rapper or poet. MCing, when properly understood, manipulates air through sound vibration in an effort to alter or expand consciousness. Did you get that? MCing, when properly understood, manipulates air through sound vibration in an effort to alter or expand consciousness. That's called talk. MCs also deliver lectures and other forms of public instruction. Most MCs rate themselves on their ability to rock a party, speak clearly, and or tell a good story. MCs, different from MCs, spelled M.C. seek the mastery of the spoken word. For in the mastery of MCing, we also express our inherent understanding of rhythm, linguistics, physics, mathematics, memory, logical reasoning, and high communication skills. MCing expresses a total integration of right and left brain coordination. Know this, a talented MC almost always becomes a respected rapper, but a talented rapper usually never becomes a respected MC. The MC expresses through rhyme what is already on your mind, whereas the rapper tells you all about his or herself. True hip-hoppers are encouraged to study both styles for maximum success. Popularized by Cab Calloway, Coke La Rock, Pebbly Pooh, Sha Rock, Chief Rocker Busy B, Keith Cowboy, Melly Mel, Grandmaster Caz, Rakim, Queen Lisa Lee, Slick Rick, Big Daddy Kane, MC Light, Roxanne Shante, Muhammad Ali, and others. Graffiti art, the study and application of street calligraphy, art, and handwriting, commonly called aerosol art, writing, piecing, burning, graph, and urban murals. Other forms of this art include bombing and tagging. Notice how bombing and tagging is spelled. Its practitioners are known as writers, bombers, graffiti writers, aerosol artists, graffitiists, and graffiti artists. Also at the genesis of human awareness, writing on walls, trees, stones, clothing, etc., plays an important part in the development of human intelligence and self-expression. Most urban children instinctively begin learning to write by writing on walls. Ancient humans of prehistoric times would put certain berry juice in their mouths and blow or spit their images onto cave walls, sometimes in total darkness, just as the modern graffiti writers of the 1970s and 1980s would do with their aerosol spray cans on the sides of subway trains. Today, graffiti artists seek to be masters of handwriting and art. Graffiti writing is mostly about letters. It's about actualizing one's artistic style and expression through letters. Graffiti artists rate themselves on their letter styles, characters, and ability to write and or draw a good story. Many writers have become graphic artists, fashion designers, photographers, and motion picture directors. Know this, graffiti as art is not vandalism. Graffiti art is the revolutionary control of public space. Graffiti art does to letters what emceeing does to language. And get that. Traditionally, the word graffiti originated from the Italian term graffito, meaning a scratch. Thus, its connection with DJing, graffiti writing, visual DJing. And then look at the coincidence of that graffio, which is what graffiti is. It's called a scratch. And here you have hip hop with its DJing, cutting, mixing, and scratching, and also including graffiti art, which is called a scratch. That's something, you just don't breeze over stuff like that. You analyze that. Your culture is being revealed to you in these connective ways. Graffiti was a term given to hip hop's graphic art animation when it appeared legally and illegally on public and private properties as an act of social protest, especially on subway trains. Similar to the way emceeing was labeled rap and breaking was labeled break dancing, so it became with writing, bombing, piecing, burning, and tagging, which have all come to be labeled graffiti. Graffiti, writing or drawing that is scribbled, scratched, or sprayed onto a surface. Popularized by Cornbread, one of the first graffiti writers, if not the first graffiti writer out of Philadelphia. Taki 183, Phase 2. K 161st. Barbara 162 and Eve 162. Lady Pink, Stay High 149. Case 2. Lee, Chico, Cope 2, Tax Crew, Pre-Sweet, Is the Wiz, Scene, Quick, OE, Revolt, Dondi, Papa 184, Zephyr, Futura 2000, and others. DJing, the study and application of rap music production, cutting, mixing, and scratching, as well as on-air radio broadcasting. Notice how we include that in our definition of DJing, on-air radio broadcasting. Commonly refers to the work of a disc jockey. However, hip-hop's disc jockey doesn't just play vinyl records, tapes, and compact discs. Hip-hop's DJ interacts artistically with the performance of a recorded song by cutting, mixing, and scratching the song in all of its recorded formats. Why don't we go ahead and grab that? I'm going to show you exactly where that is, because this is another important explanation when you want to know what should hip-hop's DJs be doing? What is this? And it's important that you understand this. Let's outline this. This is what we want to outline. Hip-hop's DJ interacts artistically with the performance of a recorded song by cutting, mixing, and scratching the song in all of its recorded formats. That's what we want. That's what we want. That's the highlight, not the other part, just this part right here. Hip-hop's DJ interacts artistically with the performance of a recorded song by cutting, mixing, and scratching the song in all of its recorded formats. That's what that is. Originally presented by two turntables, first designed by Edward P. Casey of the Bronx in 1955 and connected to a mixer with a crossfader, first designed by Grandmaster Flash in 1976. Hip-hop's DJ used the turntable and mixer as instruments that manipulated the playing of vinyl records. DJing, and notice the spelling of that as well. Notice the spelling of this, a new word in the English language. DJing, different from djing, includes speaking, even rapping while presenting recorded music. Caribbean people still use the term DJing to describe the vocal performances of rhythmic speech over music. DJing is also about knowing the moods that certain music can put an audience in. Right, the DJing is also know about the, let me read that one more time, because that's really important. DJing is also about knowing the moods that certain music can put an audience in. DJing detects and orchestrates the mood of music presentations. DJing explores the relationship between music melodies, song production, and their effects upon the moods of people. Even beyond music and other forms of entertainment, DJing as a conscious awareness not only inspires our style of musical instrumentation, it also expresses the desire and ability to create, modify, and or transform music technology. Its practitioners are known as turntablists, DJs, mixologists, grandmasters, mixmasters, jam masters, and funk masters. Disc jockey, presenter of recorded music, popularized by El Marco, Cool DJ Herc, Africa Bambaataa, Jazzy J, Grandmaster Flash, Grand Wizard Theodore, Cool DJ Red Alert, DJ Cash Money, Marley Marl, Brucey B, Chuck Chillout, Kid Capri, Africa Islam, Jam Master J, and others. Beatboxing, the study and application of body music and body language, commonly refers to the act of creating rhythmic sounds and language with various parts of the body, particularly the throat, mouth, and hands. Its practitioners are known as human beatboxers or human orchestras. Beatboxing is about seeing and using the body as an instrument. Earlier versions of this expression included ham bone or ham bone. Either one, ham bone, hand bone, ham bone, waving, and you hitting your leg with your hand. Look that up as well. You can see that online, an example of ham bone. These were early ways that bodies were being manipulated to become musical instruments because no one could afford anything. However, modern beatboxing originates from the act of imitating early electronic drum machines. The early electronic drum machines were some of the original beatboxes, and to skillfully imitate them was called beatboxing. However, ancient beatboxing was the ability to imitate the sounds of nature with one's own body parts. Now, let me just stop here for a minute, because this part right here, the early electronic drum machines were some of the original beatboxers. Let me take you back to an early routine from Grandmaster. I'm not going to play. I'm just saying it. Early routine from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. They said Flashes on the beatbox going, and Flash would go boom, ah, boom, ah, boom, ah, boom, and then he go boom, ah. There's different modules that he could play little things. This was the first beatbox, and it's actually from Grandmaster Flash. In a lot of ways, you could say Grandmaster Flash invented beatboxing. In a lot of ways, he wasn't doing the beatbox, but that drum machine that he was using is what Dougie Fresh and others would be imitating later on. I don't know if they imitated exactly what Flash was doing, but when you hear Dougie Fresh go boom and boom, boom and all of that, those are drum machine sounds. Early drum machine sounds, the beat, the crunch, the boom, and all of that stuff. These are early drum machine sounds that Dougie Fresh and, of course, Biz Markie, rest in peace, were doing back in the day. So just realize that, that part, the early electronic drum machines were some of the original beatboxes. And to skillfully imitate them, the drum machines, was called beatboxing. However, ancient beatboxing was the ability to imitate nature, imitate the sounds of nature with one's own body parts. And I learned that in Australia when I realized that the ancient Australians, 70,000, 150,000 years ago, they are imitating nature. And that imitation of nature with your body is beatboxing. I watched them do it. I have footage of them. They set my whole family down, and they gave us the ancient dances, and it was not only dance, it was not only b-boying and breaking, but it was also beatboxing, because they would imitate the sounds of the animals and also use their bodies to make sounds imitating those animals. An amazing thing to see. I'm continuing on. Not only is beatboxing a form of communication, it is hip-hop's actual language. Beatboxing is also found at the genesis of human awareness. And when I say it's hip-hop's actual language, in the future at some point, we were supposed to create a beatbox language that we as hip-hoppers are supposed to be able to go, and that means I'm getting up to go to the bathroom. Or that's hello. Means what's up. Something else might mean, something else. I don't feel well. Excuse me. We were supposed to create an entire beatbox language so we could talk to each other like, boom, boom, and somebody else go, and somebody else goes, and we all know what that means. Because again, that's what language is. It's just sounds that you understand, and we can communicate like that. I think this was also done. I think Will Smith in one of the Men in Blacks. Maybe it was the first one, that had, maybe the first or second one. He had actually had a beatbox language. I'm thinking about this now. There was a scene in Men in Black where I think one of the aliens were communicating through beatboxing. And just as another example of that. So not only is beatboxing a form of communication, it is hip-hop's actual language. Beatboxing is also found at the genesis of human awareness. In fact, imitating the sounds of nature or one's natural environment to communicate ideas and feelings is at the very beginning of human awareness, knowledge, and survival. And I tell you this bit of knowledge here is what I use to create Sound of the Police and other songs. But Sound of the Police, whoop, whoop, that's the sound of the police. That's this right here. In fact, imitating the sounds of nature or of one's natural environment to communicate ideas and feelings is at the very beginning of human awareness. That's Sound of the Police as another example. Listen to that. Woo, woo. I'm hearing that in my environment. I take it, make it a song. This was popularized by this beatboxing, popularized by Dougie Fresh, Biz Markie, the Fat Boys, the original DMX with Just Ice, Greg Nice, Bobby McFerrin, Eminem, Click the Super Latin, K-Love, Rozelle, and others. Street fashion. The study and application of urban trends and styles commonly refers to the clothing trends of urban centers. However, street fashion deals with all trends and styles of hip-hop's culture, what's in and what's out, regardless of the expression. Its practitioners are known as hip-hoppers, and notice the spelling. Self-expression through street fashion is an important way to present hip-hop's unique identity to the world. Street fashion represents the prominence of all hip-hop cultural codes, forms, and customs. Not only is fashion a very ancient form of communication, but our expressed consciousness was and still is also represented in the way in which we adorned, colored, and dressed ourselves, popularized by the Black Spades, the Black Panthers, the Crips, the Bloods, Jew-Man. And Jew-Man used to be a store back in the days, and that was the name of it, Jew-Man. It was in the Bronx, and it was a Jew, Jewish, a man and his wife. And they were selling the crazy, okay, sheepskin coats, full, somehow they had it all. You go up to Jew-Man, and with no disrespect to anyone, I'm just telling you exactly what it is, okay? You would go up to this place, you would see all the gear, all the clothes had them high up on the wall, and he always had the freshest stuff, mock neck, teardrops, pants, every color lead jean you could imagine, everything, all clothes, okay? Sheepskin coat, the leather bomber jackets, all of it. But you could go there and reason with them. They had prices, but you knew that wasn't the price. You would go, only a sucker would go up and pay the actual price. If you knew what time it was, you say, yo, let me get that. But when you got down there to the cashier, it was like, come on, man, look. And based on your game, you got $100 off. You got $50 off. You got $25 off. And they had the game. Jew-Man had the game. He overpriced it, knowing you was going to come down. It was all a game. But we all played the game. And everybody won. And that's why I put him in history. Because Jew-Man had a lot to do with how rappers were dressing and what we had access to, why we were dressing this way. Why? Because these were the clothing fashions that Jews were pushing on us and we can afford. And then we put that together and started putting things together. And then the Jews were going out to go find what we wanted. We said, yo, you got to put the British Knights, the British Walkers with the teardrop gabardine pants with the mock neck with the thing, and the Jews were running out there getting all that and coming back and making their money in the black community. So you got to know that one name, okay, is a slew of history in terms of fashion. Matter of fact, all these names I'm mentioning are whole books in terms of what they did to fashion. The Black Spades, that was a fashion statement. The Black Panthers, fashion statement. This is the first time these fashion statements were brought out, too, by the way. The Crips, fashion statement. The Bloods, fashion. Jew-Man. Ron 125th, this is a clothing designer who came after Dapper Dan. Dapper Dan on 125th as well. Shirt Kings out of Queens. Lugz Footwear. Fubu. Carl Kanai. Sean John. Big up the Puffy and all Bad Boy. Wu-Tang, or I should say Wu-Wear, sorry. Wu-Wear, which is by the way, people still rocking that to this day. Fat Joe 560, Fat Farm, and others. These are seminal. These I didn't put cross colors because hip hoppers didn't really wear cross colors. But again, cross colors, all of them was happening around this same time. And you know, Carl Kanai, Gucci, all of that was happening too. But hip hoppers were manipulating Gucci stuff, manipulating Fendi. We didn't wear Gucci. We were manipulated. The next generation of hip hoppers came and said, "Oh, we just gonna wear Gucci the way Gucci had it." That wasn't original hip hop. Original hip hop was you get the Gucci from Dapper Dan. We want the Gucci symbol and symbol. We don't care about Gucci. We have our own fashion mind. You know, we have our own mind. So we're going to take the Gucci logo, slap it on some shit we think it should be on. And don't you know Gucci and all the people took our fashion and made it their own? Could you imagine that? Look at the genius that flows through your own blood. Street language. The study and application of street communication, commonly referred to as Black English, urban slang, and ebonics. It is hip-hop's urban language and linguistic codes, the verbal communications of the streets. Advanced street language includes the correct pronunciation of one's native and national language as it pertains to urban life. In addition, advanced street language deals with one's communication skills even beyond what one says. Why don't we go ahead and highlight that? We're highlighting this second paragraph, which is actually Roman numeral 1 of street language. I'm going to read it again one more time. Very important in terms of language and from your scholarship. Advanced street language includes the correct pronunciation of one's native and national language as it pertains to urban life. So don't think the street language is like, yo, man, you know what I'm saying? Because me and my man is just going to be like, you know what I'm saying all day. No. Advanced street language includes the correct pronunciation of one's native and national language as it pertains to urban life. That's street language. In addition, advanced street language deals with one's communication skills even beyond what one says. Street language is not always spoken words. Hip-hop street language includes beatboxing and certain street codes that may not be communicated in words at all, like your clothing. Still, street fashion, as it pertains to the spoken word, is hip-hop's effort to free itself from the confinement of standard language and standardized views of reality. English, for example, does not have enough words or definitions to describe how we hip-hoppers feel about the world. This is what makes our street slang language so important to our state of freedom. Our speech publishes to others the thoughts and perceptions of our minds. Street language helps hip-hoppers interpret their world their way. Its practitioners are known as hip-hoppers, popularized by Richard Pryor, Martin Lawrence, The Last Poets, Chris Rock, The Watts Poets, James Brown, Gil Scott-Heron, E40, DJ Hollywood, Lovebug Starsky, Nas, Fab Five Freddy, Frankie Crocker, and others. And notice these eclectic names. I wrote them down because these people affected the way in which we speak. Like, I know y'all just looking at Nas. You know, you're just looking at Nas. But the way Nas's rhyme style creates words that didn't exist. But we use them, you know, Illmatic, you know, and there's a bunch of others. And Nas, as just as an example, Fab Five Freddy has come up, popularized words like fresh. We say it. Yeah, that was phrase. Do you know who originated words like hip hop? Lovebug Starsky on that. You know, E40 got the whole Bay. Okay. And then, of course, the comedians like Chris Rock and Richard Pryor and Martin Lawrence, This is street language. This is pushing, not so much the invention of words, but the use of words to convey ideas. For hip hop, this comes by way of the poets and also by way of the comedians that associate with our culture. Street knowledge. The study and application of ancestral wisdom commonly refers to the basic common sense and accumulated wisdom of urban families. This is that ancestral wisdom now. This is lineage. This is tradition, legacy. It consists of techniques, phrases, codes, and terms used to survive within the inner cities. It involves, this is street knowledge we're talking about, it involves the ability to reason soundly with or without the ideas or validation of the traditional academic mainstream. Street knowledge is the accumulation of hip-hop's cultural self-awareness. Its practitioners are known as hip-hoppers, as well as sisters, brothers, goddesses, gods, mothers, fathers, teachers, queens, kings, princesses, prince, lords, and divine. Contrary to the myth that knowledge is only accumulated in quiet, ordered academic environments, much of hip-hop's communal knowledge can be found with its comedians, poets, and authors. I just went over this. Hip-hop is learn and transfer knowledge through laughter and having fun, streetwise, knowing how to survive modern urban life. Popularized, street knowledge is popularized by Malcolm X, Dr. Cornel West, Martin Lawrence, Africa Bambaataa, Clarence 13X, Minister Louis Farrakhan, Kwame Ture, Chuck D, Nas, Dick Gregory, Chris Rock, Tupac Shakur, the Wayans brothers, Wise Intelligent, and others. Street entrepreneurialism. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me get a water. I drank this whole one. I swallowed this whole thing down. Let me just take a swig of this water real quick. The Old Bay seasoning coming up right now. Had a good time yesterday too. I'm just taking a short break. No, just give me that. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Just do that right there. Yeah. See, I didn't. Okay, right. Okay, sorry about that. All right. And no, I'm not advertising Fiji water. It's just what's here. Okay. Put that here like this. Put that here like this. Street entrepreneurialism. Now, this is the big one right here, because this is also speaking to our worth, our self-worth, our idea of self-worth. Street entrepreneurialism, the study and application of fair trade and hip-hop business management. Commonly referred to as street trade, having game, the natural salesman, or smooth diplomat. It is the readiness to engage in the creation of a business venture that brings about grassroots business practices. Many of hip-hop's apprenticeships begin here. Different from entrepreneurism, which may include the techniques and practices of the entrepreneur, entrepreneurialism focuses upon the motivating spirit to be self-employed, inventive, creative, and self-educated. Why don't we go ahead and highlight that one as well? I'm going to read that one more time. Different from entrepreneurism, which may include the techniques and practices of the entrepreneur, entrepreneurialism focuses upon the motivating spirit to be self-employed, innovative, creative, and self-educated. Very important character within hip-hop. It is the spirit of self-creation, the urge to create and sell one's own talents, discoveries, and inventions that is encouraged by these teachings. And that was the whole point to the first part, okay, of this. Master your skills. It is in this spirit, the spirit of self-creation, the urge to create and sell one's own talents, discoveries, and inventions that is encouraged by these teachings. Its practitioners, street entrepreneurialism, its practitioners are known as hustlers and self-starters. Entrepreneur, a self-motivated creative person who undertakes a commercial venture. Popularized by Madam C.J. Walker, Russell Simmons, Luther Campbell, Sean Puffy Combs, Jack the Rapper, Robert Townsend, Eazy-E, Too Short, and others. And notice these names, people forget. And that's why, for your scholarship, that these names are mentioned after these. So you look sometimes saying, what does Nas have to do with street language? Or what does Too Short have to do with street entrepreneurialism? But these are part of the histories that we forgot. And if you go back and dig these names up and listen to how they actually started their businesses, you too can be inspired. That's why their names are here. Not Eazy-E, the gangster Eazy-E. No, go back and read his story. And you'll see what the mind that was behind. Go back, Too Short in the Bay Area selling his tapes out the trunk of a car. Go back, read the story, not the pimp part. Go back, read the business part. And that's why these names are here in that. Let me read on. We're now leaving the Refinitions, the 9 elements of hip hop: breaking, emceeing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, and street entrepreneurialism. We just went through the 9 elements of hip hop. Now we're going into the ages of hip hop, certain ages. Now we have these ages here. Remember that this was written before the ages. These predictions were actually written before this book was published. And you'll notice that the last one, which is the Platinum Age, I'm sorry, the last one, I'm sorry, is not the Platinum Age, it's the Information Age, but the Platinum Age, what I'm speaking to, Age of Power, 1991 to 2001. I want to talk to you a little bit about this as we go through this, 1991 to 2001. I'm just going ahead to page 125. I'm going to come back in a minute. But this is when we were dealing with astronomy and astrology. And they're two different things. Astrology is not astronomy, and astronomy is not astrology. These are two different things. They're similar because they're talking about the universe, but they approach the universe differently. So we were talking about astronomy and astrology, and we were talking about what hip hop is to the universe, and that's where these ages came from. We had to sit and look, and we're still looking. I may even have to add an age to our ages, because I'm noticing, we noticed that hip hop was moving in cycles of 50 years, but everybody else's calendar moves in cycles of 60 years. So we was looking at that, because there's all types of conspiracy theories and why we know certain things, this, that, this. So you got to really do your research and study. Who's giving you the information? How did you get this information? Go look at the stars yourself. Go take a look at how the universe is moving yourself. We have to do all this, and we're still doing it. We're still in the process of observing hip hop to see its cycles, when we see things repeating themselves over certain periods. So we did this up to about a 50-year cycle, up to a 50-year cycle, because this is what we was able to detect. We're still keeping within the 50-year cycle. Actually, we're coming up on the first actual 50 years of hip hop that we know of from 1973. But here, you'll notice that we start, according to astronomy, we start from 61 to 71. And you can even go back to 51, to 61. And I'm sorry, 61 to 51. 51 to 41, 41 to 31. If you could trace hip hop's character back through this time, you'll be able to read history a little deeper than what's being offered. So this is a technique that as scholars you need to know, and we can get deeper into it, not today on this call, but we can get deeper into it. I could pull out our charts and so on. Minister Zenaru will remember that we was on our way to making a calendar, that hip hop needs its own calendar. And this knowledge was part of that. This was the beginning of us building our own calendar. You know, remember, every day is only one day. Okay. The illusion of a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This is a Christian indoctrination. It moves society forward. It makes you think you're moving forward in time and this kind of thing. But actually, there's only one day, and it's called day and night. That's it. And day come, night come. Day come, night come. Day come, night come. And it's part of one 24-hour day. That's what the universe is dealing with. The universe don't know nothing about a Monday or a Tuesday, and you think Monday's different from Tuesday. No, it's not. But there is such a thing called seasons and ages, where the universe repeats itself over seasons, and you could predict these seasons, and you could predict these things, and that is where you get your 365 days a year, because this is what happens when the earth is going around the sun, and da-da-da-da-da. You can predict a winter, a spring, a summer, a fall. You know, you can predict these reoccurrences. So calendars are made to help us people to go back on, to not forget the seasons, to not forget when things are getting ready to happen. You have a calendar. I use the calendar in another way to predict the future. I find it fascinating that you can have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, meaning I'm standing on what I perceive to be a Monday, and I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do on Friday. So, the Indians, Native Americans, indigenous people used to say, in 3 moons, we're going to do this or that. In 7 moons, this happens, and so on. We call them days. So other tribes and nations and communities have dealt with this as well. It's an illusion of the mind, but it helps you to predict and to plan. And that's what's most important. That's the point to an age, seasons, calendars, so on. To be able to put a calendar in front of yourself or say, I'm within the month of May, or right now in the month of July or August or something like that. July, I think we're coming up toward the end of July. So you say, I'm in the month of July, and I'm predicting my birthday, August 20th. What am I going to do August 20th? And I'm in July. So I can look at August 20th on a grid called a calendar, and I could fill that grid up with anything I want. What a great invention that is, to be able to see your life on a grid, and you could actually write into the grid what you are going to experience and what you're going to do on this day. And it gets into the spiritual as well, because you can say, I am healthy this day. I have knowledge this day. I'm going to run into my dream this day. I'm going to complete my goal this day. I'm going to, and chances are, a lot of times it happens. The mystical use of the calendar, write into these boxes what you want for yourself, and see, don't they come true? Try it. Okay, here we are now. We're starting with the Dark Age, okay? Dark Age, the Age of Revolution, 1961 to 1971. This was a 10-year period. This was a time when every institution in the United States was being questioned and challenged on its authenticity and value. It was during these turbulent times that the first generation of hip-hoppers were born. That's the importance of starting here. We start in the Dark Age, okay, or what is called the Dark Age. Our first gatherings were held in our homes as house parties. Later, we moved outside into the public parks. Originality in one's artistic skill was hip-hop's first cultural status symbol, okay? Remember that. The Light Age, which was 1971 to 1981. During this time, hip-hop began to emerge as a distinct and unique urban movement. This was a time when hip-hopers displayed the sight. As our house parties became overcrowded, we hip-hoppers began using electric power from the city street lights to generate as much energy needed to run huge sound systems in New York City's public parks. And then here's a quote from MC Shan, quote, "Hip-hop was set out in the dark. They used to do it out in the park," end quote, MC Shan, KRS. "Power from a street light made the place dark," end quote. Intercepting city power was literally and symbolically one of the ways in which the hip-hop sight was first expressed. The light of the street, or the awareness of the street light, sight, had some hip-hoppers creating community recreation by unleashing the fire hydrants on hot summer days. Some wrote their names and other messages on city subway trains and buses, while others danced for money in the downtown areas of their cities. Still others would express new fashion and language trends. At the close of this age, hip-hop began to slowly influence the American mainstream in a variety of ways. However, hip-hop, the community, began to want what the mainstream offered as opposed to being satisfied with what it had already accomplished. This was an age when hip-hop realized it was unique and self-evident. There were no limits in our sight. By the middle of this age, most of our gatherings were held in public parks, nightclubs, and community centers. Those with loud sound systems and or boom boxes, large portable radios, were considered important. Self-recorded cassette tapes of DJing and emceeing became hip-hop's industrial and cultural status symbols. It was through the symbolic power of the street light that we empowered ourselves. And you know, I mean, I could dwell on that, but I'm going to keep going because that street light, which we have a whole series. If you haven't seen the Street Light movie, go online and look it up on YouTube, Street Light. But we have a whole series on that because it's both like this part of here, interpreting city power. Intercepting city power was literally and symbolically one of the ways in which the hip hop site was first expressed. Literally and symbolic. We actually went to the street light, but there was a street awareness that went to the street light. There was a street light that went off in us that said, yo, we can get the power from right there. This reinventing your environment, reinventing yourself, reinventing what you wear, how you speak. This is the key to self-worth. This is the key to creating value for yourself when it doesn't appear to have, when it doesn't, no value appears to be around you. This is the key. The golden age, from 1981 to 1991. This was a time when hip-hop became self-aware and began to establish itself in the world. This is when most of hip-hop's culture's foundational work was inspired. Many of hip-hop's cultural icons emerged during this time. The hip-hop community was still inexperienced, and many hip-hoppers were angry at the mainstream for ignoring them. Curtis Blow would be the first MC to sign to a major recording corporation, Mercury Records. During this time, a gold album, 500,000 recordings sold, and gold jewelry became the hip-hop community's industrial and cultural status symbols. Those with a gold album sales award and or an assortment of gold jewelry were considered large or important. During this age, some hip-hoppers remained cultural while others chose to be corporate. It was a time of great debate and image building. It was during this time that many hip-hoppers began to lose the sight. Okay, that was from 81 to 91. Okay, so it's a little bit of the history, just a little bit, it is quick in terms of the ages, but it's summing up the spirit of the age and accurately as well. This is what was going on. And also check how through each age, our status symbols changed. It's like every 10 years, this is what's important now. Every 10 years, this, and there's no logic to it. It's just knowledge. You know, we started out with the boom box. That was important. Then it became gold jewelry. Now we're in the platinum age. Age of power, the Ice Age. This is from 1991 to 2001. And you'll remember this time of bling. This was an age when the hip hop community began to benefit from the techniques set down by those of the golden age. This age was influenced by a so-called war on drugs, which many said was really a war on families. Most of the artistic expressions of this era were makeovers, do-overs, remixes, rewrites, and samples. Very little originated from any of hip-hop's 9 elements during this time. Emphasis was placed upon media ratings, sales chart positions, fame, and money, which came about through the basic copying and remaking of the already popular songs, dances, and street trends of the 1970s and 1980s. We don't remember that much now, but from about 1991 to about 2001, it was all about the makeover, the do-over, the remix, and people got rich off this as well. All of us did popularize it. It wasn't just the makeover of music. It was clothing fashions came back in. Movies were getting remade. Certain movies that trended in the 80s, 70s, and 80s were remade now in from 91 to 2001. During this time, rap music became the dominant expression of the inner cities, influencing millions of people from a variety of their ethnicities, classes, and professional occupations. Hip-hop came in, rap music came into itself. It was during the Platinum Age or Ice Age that hip-hop, notice the spelling, accumulated enough wealth to independently provide for its families. A platinum album, meaning 1 million CDs sold, and platinum jewelry became the hip-hop community's status symbols. True hip-hop went underground. And even though hip-hop has cried out for peace and unity during this age, it was the pursuit of money, power, and respect that was called the key to life. The Information Age, which was the age of culture, 2001 to 2011. In this age, hip-hop culture and all of its elements became common knowledge in the inner city and within the institutions of the world. Many hip-hoppers matured during this age, becoming aware of their spiritual natures and higher purpose. Higher purpose as hip-hop. And I'm pausing because I want you to recognize the spellings as well. Recognize many hip-hoppers matured during this age, becoming aware of their spiritual natures and higher purpose as hip-hop. Many hip-hoppers raised families in productive hip-hop lifestyles. This age was influenced by a so-called war on terror. This age also experienced the moral collapse of corporate and religious institutions in America due to widespread greed, lust, and corruption. In addition, this age saw some of the worst weather in history. Whole cities and coastlines began to disappear during this age. We don't talk about this much. The Mayan calendar came true, but there's so much other stuff going on, you don't even recognize it. During this time, rap music lost some of its mainstream CD selling appeal. Many argued that it was the availability of free music over the internet and bootleg mixtapes that caused rap music to lose its ability to sell like it did in its previous ages. However, another perspective suggests that rap music lost some of its mainstream appeal and commercial dominance because of its irresponsible, unbalanced, and vulgar images hip-hop betrayed, lowercase hip-hop, betrayed daily through mainstream media outlets that were controlled by 2 or 3 recording companies, as well as continuously overpriced CDs, which lacked any real artistic talent. That's what really caused rap music to not sell as much as it used to. Rap music's original production styles of hard beats, aggressive drums, and samples were replaced by a more rhythm and blues style of production. With more popularity and money, rap music became more musical and less confrontational. With its acceptance into the mainstream, rap music lost its rebellious street edge and thus its ability to compete in the corporate world. Diamonds became the hip-hop community's industrial and cultural status symbols, while true hip-hop became more underground and socially conscious. But the many cultural campaigns, songs, articles, and conferences that were launched by hip-hop's conscious organizations against the unbalanced presentations of hip-hop to the world were largely overlooked by the mainstream. These campaigns forced many hip-hoppers to revisit their hip-hop roots, causing new ways of thinking about oneself and one's environment to manifest within the hip-hop community. In this age, which was also during the completion of this first instrument, attuned hip-hoppers became well-respected political and social forces, well-respected political and spiritual forces for social change. Now, keep in mind that when that was written, we didn't know that. We didn't know this part. Okay, it says this is a prediction. In this age, which was also during the completion of this first instrument, attuned hip-hoppers became well-respected political and spiritual forces for social change. Many of the mistakes made in our previous ages were corrected in this age when we became the executives, teachers, writers, politicians, athletes, actors, and technicians of mainstream media outlets. That was a prediction. That wasn't the case when this was written. It's the case now. During this time, the Temple of Hip Hop established itself as a legitimate hip hop preservation society and hip hop ministry. Here we are. Never again was there no way out of sickness, hate, ignorance, and poverty for our people. Never again did we have to accept the exploitation of the mainstream just to be heard. Those hip-hoppers that stayed committed to hip-hop's original principles would be repeatedly honored in this age. However, the hip-hop community would still have to outsmart many of the counterintelligence programs launched against it. However, our victories over such challenges prove our divinity. It was during this age that the Hip-Hop Declaration of Peace became common knowledge, and hip-hop was declared an official international culture for peace and prosperity. It is during this age that people began to approach hip-hop more seriously, and a new age of peace began. That ended in 2011. All those predictions came true by 2011. We're in 2021, which is another 10 years. Now, if you go with everyone else's calendar, we would add on another year right now. This is the 60th year of this particular reading. We would add on another 10 years and we would call it, you know, whatever exemplified the spirit of this age. But we're looking at that now because we're looking at the fact that we went in cycles of 50, and do we just repeat the 50? Because this is how you do it. It's a repeatable thing. So do we repeat at 60 or do we repeat at 50? Well, we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at that over the next 10 years and see if the last 10 years was really a 60, a new 60, or was it a repeat of the dark age? Because you can clearly see right now that we're in a so-called dark age right now. People don't know what to do, don't know where to go. COVID, I mean, come on, the racial injustice, and also look at what the dark age is. Okay, age of revolution. Okay, this was a time when every institution in the United States was being questioned and challenged on its authenticity and value. That's happening right now. We've gone through a cycle, and now we've returned to the dark age, which could be from 2011 to 2021. Wait a minute. Yeah, from 2011 to 2021. That would be a repeat of the dark. And I'm giving you the technique so that you could also see it from a surface point of view. We back this up with other knowledge, but just take a look out your window. That's all. Just take a good look out your window. Just look outside and say, wow, look at all the ages we're dealing with, because we wrote them down as they were going on. Have we returned to the dark age? Look at the time from 2011 to now, 2021. Was that a dark age? Was that a dark age where now we're coming into a light age? 2021 ended, so now 2021 to 2031 is going to be an age of light. Because now, we done seen Floyd, we done seen the COVID, people done lost their job, lost their business. Now things got to brighten up. Now things got to open. Now it's the age of light. Your awareness now. Now we're coming into awareness. Is that what it is? That's what we're looking at. That's what we're what is called observing time. We are observing time. And we're looking at the spirit of what's going on out here versus what's going, and we write it down. We write it down. So this is going to conclude this week's reading. Next week, we will continue on page 128 because we go into language and us being criticized, our language being criticized. And there's an argument here that we wage, and scholars have to be able to wage that argument. But we just read the Refinitions, which is the redefined definitions. And we also read them in the spirit of raising your self-worth. Why should you know the Refinitions? Because as scholars, to speak of hip hop in this way raises your self-worth. It raises the value. You are speaking from a body of knowledge. You're not just coming off the cuff. You're speaking from an authorized body of knowledge from an original and authentic source. You can't get no better than that. Literally, you can't get no better than that. This is also the sacredness of the Temple of Hip Hop, that the Temple of Hip Hop as an institution holds that sacredness. Your founder, your teacher, was there at the very beginning and have remained hip hop the whole way. Never sold out, never gonna sell out, and always stay true to what it is. I'm not bragging, I'm not saying nothing, but you have to know who and what your teacher is. And you can look at my track record, you can look at my history, you can look at what we teach, you can look at what we preach, you can look at what we stand for. This is what we know has preserved hip hop. This is what we know works. This is what works. And young people need to get up on this, because if you want to reach 50, if you want to reach 60, you're going to have to get with this or something like it. Some kind of advice from people who have made it to these ages and have achieved success. So there it is. And next week, same time, same time, 12 o'clock, for those of us on the East Coast here of the United States, those who are picking up with us as well later on. Thank you for listening as well. Our hardcore 60 that's still with us, thank you. You guys are becoming scholars straight up and down. And those who are attending this, and make sure you get your attendance in too, so we know that you were here each and every time in that sense, and you're getting the highlights. So again, next Sunday, I'll see you here at 12 o'clock for the continuation of our reading. It's the Gospel of Hip Hop. Make sure you get one. KRS-ONE, G. Simone, Minister Sun One, and happy birthday, Minister Zinaru. I'm out. Peace. And Sun One, I'm out. I'm actually going to run right now, so I'm going to leave the conference real quick. Put your face up real quick so I could at least go out.
They were.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So peace to you. I gotta run right now.
Okay.
Fatherhood is calling me right now to deal with that. But again, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you in particular for riding out the whole week. I have to give you a public thanks because you made it happen. You made it happen in the studio. We filmed a movie this week. I didn't want to bring that up until we was done with it, but we shot a nice flick this week. And then everything that went down, it was a hard week this week. We was on our feet the whole week. And then, of course, 2 concert dates, one in Tennessee, the other one here in Atlanta. We were on our feet. Big up to the Temple members that came through as well. We have to go over our lessons as well. I will say on the call as well that I was expecting those other Temple members that came with us. I was expecting them this Sunday as well, and we've missed each other as well. We're going to have to talk about that as well. But I appreciate the help throughout this week as well from everybody who actually came through. We looked very professional yesterday and had ourselves together. So I'm always appreciative of how the Temple of Hip Hop looks when we're out in the public. We ain't with the crazy, So I want to thank you, Son One, for putting that together and making that hot for us as far as the Temple of Hip Hop is concerned.
Yes, sir. I'm just doing my duty, my G.
Come on, man.
When I say I'm trying to be a man of my word and what I aim to bring to the Temple of Hip Hop. This is what it is.
That's all we can be as men. Okay, I'm coming now. Men of our word, women of our words, families, communities of our word. Thank you for that. I'm rolling. Peace to the God.
Peace to the God. All right, folks, family. I really don't have much to say besides study this part hard. I know there weren't many highlights, but this is everything in the Refinitions is what you can actually teach. It's like a very this is what raises your value. And I know it, or sometimes hearing TEACHA explain it the way he explains it, and those who have looked at past lectures that he's given or past classes that he's given, and you may be used to it and think that because you're used to it, that everybody else is used to it. And that can't be farther from the truth. When people ask you things about hip hop and you're actually able to explain them, they are normally more than highly impressed at as simple as this stuff sounds, or to us, or to those who have been around, simple as this sounds to us, because we know it now from studying it for so long, that no, it's still mind-blowing. It's like the Refinitions itself, the whole gospel really is like a greatest hit. It never gets old. And people really feel this way. When you're explaining and able to explain with real depth and intricacy what is being said, when somebody asks you about the 9 elements, well, how is it 9 elements? I thought that there were 4, or I thought that there were 5, or I thought that there were 6. What do you mean? What makes fashion, language, knowledge, entrepreneurialism? What makes those elements of hip hop? You got to be able to explain that. But know that those who can explain it, that it's still extremely impressive, because people just don't get it. It's harsh to say, But it seems as though that's the way that it is a lot of times, is that no, they hear it, but then they still don't get it. They can hear what's being said, and then they just don't understand. But it's easier a lot of times when they can slow down and get certain things out of their mind, like celebrity out of their mind and all that stuff out of their mind, to truly listen to what's being said. And you can be that vehicle. As Teacher was talking earlier about heritage of the basis of your inheritance and your birthright now coming through and carrying you on throughout your life. And just to keep, again, or like he had said, to know that, or the purpose of it really is to take it and pass it along. And so whether you're teaching a full class, whether you're just teaching your family, whether you're teaching just one person on the block, is very important. And we can never forget of how much these things change lives, or these interactions, this knowledge, it changes lives once somebody can receive it and really understand it and really get it. If even just a part of it, it normally sets others on a path toward their purpose and exactly where they're supposed to be. I was explaining to some of the brothers earlier that for me, it never gets old seeing the people come up, and especially when they see our teaching and they start pinpointing like certain things, like specific things. They're like, no, it was when I heard this that I got set on my path, and now I'm an engineer for NASA. And you'd be like, well, wait a minute. How did you get from here, you must learn, or my philosophy, or and it's going to continue. It's going to be just like this. Some of us, a lot of you here are, I 10 to 1, going to go on and do amazing things. And you'll be like, yo, the temple class, and you'll even know the date. You're like, yo, this date, 8/1, I heard this. Next thing you know, I just kept moving towards other things, and it got me here. I took it seriously, or what he said about this. No, I really learned this and started to teach the Refinitions to people who wanted to know, and it did raise my value. People wanted to hire me. I told it to one person, and they said, oh, wait, I have an event over here. You need to come say that at this event. We're having something like that. And this is where you got to understand, it's like, there's so many things happening, especially with hip hop. People throwing functions of hip hop that would love to have a hip hop cultural specialist come through and break down hip hop at their hip hop event. Or what I'm trying to think of the long events. It's slipping my mind right now. Or just not one show, but like a day of it. Or like, no, that they want. And a lot of times they can't necessarily afford a big name or this, that, and the third, but the knowledge that you're dropping is just as big as these names. And so you end up really being everything that they needed at the time. So again, I'm trying to stress the importance of knowing what this what this is, and now in order to, because just like you're hearing it and you're listening to it as he broke down the ages, for you to do the same thing to somebody who has never heard it, they're like, oh my goodness, right, wow, that is how it was, wow, that seems how it is right now again. And now that the cycle has repeated, you'll see it. And just like, or what got me was, okay, so technically right now we're in the age of light. And I'm gonna shout out our brother Fat Joe, Fat Joseph, because he got this song out. In the beginning of the song, he goes, "It's time to bring in the light. It's time to bring the light in now, you know." And the song is all about the light. And for whatever reason, something is possessing Brother Fat Joe to keep talking about the light all of a sudden. Well, we're in the age of light right now, or the second age of light. And so if you can't see that, and mind you, it's not like we called up Fat Joe and said, Fat Joe, we need you to make a song about the light so that you can confirm and make our gospel be accurate, because you're talking about the light and this, that, and the third. No, this is just happening and aligning up with our gospel, really, like it always does. So I just wanted to put that down for y'all real quick. I did want to show an example of the lockers, which I had lined up. Let me see. For us to actually go out on that. All right, peace and much love to you all. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we will definitely see you next week.
Great welcome, gang, for the Lockers.
Hey! It's up to you, Chef. Just save the day for us. Oh, man.